It would go against our core selling point, which is the fact that we're British and we're trying to crack the American market.
Or any market. Not start ruling out markets, Duncan.
Yes. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Short Fuse. I'm Duncan Roberts, and I'm here with Ollie O'Donoghue. Say hi, Ollie.
Hi, Duncan Roberts.
It's nice to see you again.
You wanted me to say more. That was the feedback in the post-production meeting. Was can you do something other than say hi? Well, I have.
I just wanted you to say more so that it would make my life easier, but you've just made it much harder.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. Give yourself an introduction.
Hi, Duncan. The weather is nice where I am.
Anyway, we are here with a more traditional episode this time. We're going to be discussing a particular topic and whether we are long or short on it. The topic today is robotics, more specifically humanoid robotics. So it's obviously a very large field, robotics, but we want to be a bit more specific, and we're going to talk about those bipedal robots like Tesla's Optimus that are quite popular at the moment. Ollie, give us your first take, long or short?
Long, I think.
Really?
Long, which is odd for me because I don't like any of this.
Yeah,
I don't like it at all. I think you're surprised by the look on your face.
I am a
long
bit
on
surprised,
something like this.
honestly.
Well, the one thing that gave me pause, Duncan. Let's pay homage to our tech tracker early on before our listeners switch off. Where do you think robotics, which, as you'd be keen to remind me, isn't necessarily just about humanoid robots, it's about all sorts of robots. Where do you think it is today? I can see
I
you
should
checking
know
the
that.
screen.
I should know that.
You should know it. That's why I put you on the spot.
Oh,
you built it, Duncan.
I'm going to say it's because there's so much in Skeptic's Corner. I'm going to say it's in Skeptic's Corner.
You would have been right a month ago.
Okay.
So it has gone in 3 months. It's probably had the swiftest darting journey around the middle nuclear point. It's gone from Hidden Gems 3 months ago to Skeptic's Corner, and now I'm sad to say it's in the hype trap. It's just
It is a
the
bit of a hype trap, and I think that I'm short on humanoid robots. I don't think that they're going to go away. I just think they're constantly going to be this thing that certain people and certain companies are trying to strive towards, but we never actually get there. They're a sci-fi kind of addiction of big tech that people want to create, and with so many things in technology at the moment, they're like, let's make it and then try and make it valuable and find a use case for it, and try and kind of build it and then get people to buy it. But I just don't think that will ever happen.
I think what gives credence to what you've just said is I spent some time looking at different manufacturers of these bots, or I guess companies that are seeking funding and claim to have manufactured a bot specifically. And the vast majority of them spent, I would argue, too much of their marketing material talking about how soft the upholstery of the robot is. So,
yeah, but there might be a reason for that. There's a particular demographic who
it's fabric, Duncan. It's fabric, and I know I'm going to guess when you're going to push the conversation into unsavory parts of the economy.
I'm not going to do that yet. I'm not going to do that yet.
You will. You nearly did just then. You were desperate to.
But it's a valid thing to talk about with this. But let's wind it back in. We have humanoid robots. We have very many different types of robotics going on, from factory robots to Boston Dynamics dogs that are incredibly creepy. But we're talking specifically here about there's one called the Figure 3, I think, or Tesla Optimus, and they're quite creepy. I think Boston Dynamics have them as well. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. You're going to have to look it up, Ollie. But they're what's that?
It's the Richard Osman to your Armstrong. Okay.
Well, you're supposed to do it in the background while I'm talking.
I'm sorry to distract you from being a gregarious host. It's my bad.
But they're very exciting to see on screen. And you see periodically you get one of these Boston Dynamics videos of it doing somersaults on a box or jumping somewhere, or somebody karate kicking it in the head and it managing to stay upright and then karate kicking. You never see them karate kicking actually someone back, but they do a karate kick in midair. But there's all these incredibly exciting and technically proficient videos. But still, when it comes to practical applications, it's putting some washing in a washing machine or folding clothes or doing the dishes, and I'm sure you're going to talk about the economics of it, but like for the cost of these robots versus what they will actually do, like serve drinks, put washing in a washing machine, maybe mop your floor. Like I'm sure there are many other options for it, but like it feels like they're trying to go, well, do you want a servant and a slave? Well, here you go. You can pay loads of money for one.
I think that utility part is the most interesting part, because on there, again, if you just look at their marketing materials, there's one here. I'm looking at Neo, right? So
Right.
This is a very soft robot. This is one I mentioned, right? It's very soft, lovely and soft.
I'm going to have to look at this while you're talking.
It's got a video on it where it's got him this robot carrying out multiple tasks, and they include putting some keys down, watering a plant, unsteadily carrying a kettle to a table. Just like if there was water in that
Straightening
kettle,
a picture.
it'd be
Straightening a
everywhere. Straightening a picture. And my favourite is hoovering, because you can get a robot hoover already for a fraction of the price that presumably would do a better job. And that's actually one of the most compelling videos. A lot of them, like I say, are just like, oh, it's nice and soft. It won't crush you.
They do seem to be this putting some keys on a thing, or standing creepily while your owners drink some. Oh,
well, this one where it's got
he's actually wearing something very similar to his human overlord,
who's busy meditating. Luckily. So they're like, I have so much time on my hands now. I have no choice but to sit in silence. There's nothing to do.
Oh dear, this one. This is really cracking me up, because actually the figure 03 or whatever it is broadly a similar kind of video. It's this incredibly kind of luxurious environment with people just chilling in the background, and this robot going around doing the tasks, like very slowly putting the washing into the washing machine. But I think the point about the robot Hoover is one where we can dig in a little bit here, which is we seem to be building humanoid robots for their general versatility. Like the world the humans have built has been built for humans, bipedal, arms and legs, etc. Therefore, you would think that the most sensible way to build a robot that's general is build one that's like a human that can do all the things that we can do. But that just misses out on so many different things that these robots already can't do that we can do, and whether actually it's much more efficient and much more cost effective and much more valuable just to have specific robots doing specific things. So do you need a humanoid robot at the cost of £100,000 to do your hoovering when you could buy a robot vacuum cleaner for £1,000? I'm sure all of those things that good old Neo Gamma can do, wipe down a surface, put keys on a tray,
that
could be
arduous
done
of all tasks.
Individually by lots of different things at a much cheaper cost and much more accurately by a robot designed for a specific thing. So I'm so short on these, but watching this video brings me a lot of joy.
It's I mean, of course, we should just mention that clearly they've picked us to be like, look how dexterous this guy is, but it just feels so useless, just absolutely useless. That said, right, let's get into the meaty numbers, Duncan. Because here's why I'm long.
Right,
famous robot lovers, Morgan Stanley, predict this will be a $5 trillion market.
Don't they predict that everything will be a multi-trillion-dollar market?
They do. Yeah, it's the nature of their business. They're bankers. They have to. I mean, imagine if them as a bank they said, "Oh, the economy's screwed, guys." They have to keep predicting. But that's by 2050, so we have time. And a lot of the arguments actually tie up with that. Say, look, there's one of the biggest challenges is probably software. So being able to easily integrate it with other devices that you have in your house and the hardware of your house in a smart home is when it starts being practically useful. So like, a smart washing machine, a smart fridge and stuff like that. I mean, I still think a lot of those tasks are so quasi-valueless that most people won't want to fork out £100,000
They're
for a robot.
quasi-valueless for a lot of people. I think we can come on to this in a minute. I think there are groups of people where it could be extremely valuable, like in elder care or care.
We'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come to that.
Companionship, which I know you're.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there yet, but I will get there. But let me go back to one of the things that you said before, which is its integration with other software is probably one of the trickiest bits. I disagree. I think that being hooked up to a smart home, it will be tricky, but I think it will be relatively simple. Do you know what I think the biggest problem with these things that we're not talking about is that they can't do with all the kind of the wrist motions and the dexterity and the balance and stuff like that. They can't touch anything. They can't feel touch.
Sure.
And also, we know from our sense of touch and pressure how hard to pick things up, and everything's different. That brings me on to my second point, which is these things are all incredibly choreographed to show how dexterous they are in very, as I say, choreographed situations. Let one of these out on the average home that is completely chaotic and has lots of different things, and they're not pre-programmed to do certain things. I think it would just fall over. I just don't think we are anywhere near the general purpose nature of this humanoid robot that they think is going to just live in every home.
So I think that's the point they're making. When they talk about hardware, they mean the physical hardware of your house.
Right, yeah.
Right. So it's like banging into doors, radiators, that type of stuff. Because you think robot hoovers really just need to kind of map almost a 2D landscape.
Yeah.
Because they're so low down. They're bang into a few things. But you think about how many things are sticking out, and vases, priceless Ming vases in your house, no doubt, Duncan, that could be knocked over. The one that always strikes me in my head, because I still haven't nailed it, is crossing London Bridge in rush hour without banging into anyone. Like put video that. I'd love to see it, because I think they would be instructed to stop if there's an obstacle. Understandably, you'd get nothing done. You'd get nothing done in any busy environment. Anyway. Back to some numbers, Duncan.
Right, okay.
For why I'm long.
You're still long. I'm going to try and convince you.
I'm still long. Right. So back to the Morgan Stanley report.
Right.
They believe 90% of the world's humanoid robots will be in manufacturing, right? Which I think we would agree with, right? So that's very that in that environment you actually don't have any of the challenges that we've just talked about. If it's picking up, molten steel or something with specially, it's been designed for that purpose, that's probably okay. If it's been designed to tidy up my house, which has got two cockapoos making a constant mess, it's going to struggle. We have to have a very customized robot. But I think it's about 930 million units. That's where most of the cash is going to flow. But 10% for consumers. So I think 10% of US households, presumably the wealthiest, will have a robot by 2050. Which
for what purpose? Yeah, for what purpose? Like just as a busybody around the house?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So what I did was I took 5 or 6 of the biggest manufacturers of these bots and looked at the use cases they describe. And it almost we've talked about getting rid of those pesky keys that are
putting some
that are
washing
down
in the washing machine.
But stuff like that, right? So domestic chores seems to be a big one. Watering plants, stuff like that, which is a massive market. So that's about 500 billion globally. That's the official market. The unofficial market is likely much, much bigger.
For watering plants?
No, not just exclusively watering plants. Although that too is a massive market, Duncan.
That's how it came across.
This is all household services.
Right.
This is a range of household services.
Right.
So kind of cooking, cleaning.
But you talk about this with AI and job replacement, right? Like humans are probably still cheaper. Like it's.
Well, I heard from someone the other day. Right.
Yeah.
So this is someone that we both know, Duncan. I'm not gonna reveal it. We'll know if they listen to our show if they hear this. But they want one. And I was as dismissive as you are, and this is what turned me long. Is they said, "Well, the problem I have is I don't want another person in my house, so I don't want another a cleaner or someone. A bot solves that problem, and they are the type of person that could probably get a bot if they wanted one.
But they're okay with a camera loaded like robot walking around their house sending data off to. They won't have a person, and I get it. I don't like people either. But it's not just an inanimate object that is kind of isolated to your house. It's an object that has cameras and sensors hooked up to data centers, who knows where, sending data to who knows where about what's going on in your house. So,
well, I actually don't think that was the bit they were squeamish about. I don't think they thought, oh, if a human comes in here, there'll be a heist and they'll steal all my valuables.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. They weren't worried. They weren't so much worried about that. But it was the idea that this bot would get better and better and better, and you could train it to your person. You know, it would learn through context and would be with you for quite a long period.
And
of time.
I get that. I think it would be useful, but I think we've got a long way to go. I think is my point before the robots that we see at the moment are at that stage. Because like we don't have those things like sense of touch, and the dexterity is maybe not necessarily as good as it should be for that general purpose nature. B, because houses are messy and different and incomplete, and also where was I? D.
Yeah, F.
I just don't think they're ready, and I don't think that they're at a stage where anybody would be comfortable not just having it in their house, but be comfortable with it doing the things that it needs to do without messing it up.
What I'm calculating here for 2050. So I also agree that they're not ready, but
Yeah.
I think eventually they will be, because, and here's the reason why I think the market's massive. So you've got a 500 billion global household services market, right, which is big. That also has a knock-on effect, because there are a lot of people that can't participate in the economy for, and you mentioned it right at the start, like elder care, childcare, whatever, right? So suddenly, actually, if you have a bot, it feels gross, but you know, there are films that imply it's okay until it isn't, having a bot look after your kids and it abducts the kids. But you know, if it doesn't do that last bit to conclude the film, we're all fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay.
The other one, no one mentions this one, but personal security services, I also think. So you mentioned a camera in the thing's head, but it being able to patrol your premises at night. Now that market, just cameras, burglar alarms, 100 billion globally.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Courier services. Now, most of these don't mention it, but having it be able to go out to the shops. This one isn't mentioned in a lot of sites, but I have played Detroit Being Human. And not to ruin it for everyone, it's kind of the first mission you have to do is go out and get some paint for this guy.
As a
I
robot.
could see that being as a robot.
But like,
as a humanoid robot.
sure, right? So so let me just wind back a bit. Courier services, security services, those are all doable by things that aren't humanoid robots. You can put some cameras up, and you can get drone deliveries, right? And there are lots of things that do that better, I think, than a humanoid robot would, and more efficiently, and probably more cheaply. Do we think it's just the fact that it looks like a person that people want it? They just want what they've seen in the films.
Yeah, potentially, it's cool, right? You know, you can use a Nissan Micra to get to work, Duncan. A lot of people don't. Right? You know, Aston Martin would be in real trouble if what you're saying is true, and we just became completely utilitarian. People are going to want it because it's a cool thing to have. I think that's actually a big part of the market, is that the second one of your neighbours has one. If you're in, I mean, this is again the Morgan Stanley report. They're talking about the richest, right? The really rich people. But if your neighbour looks out and you've got a robot mowing your lawn, even though a robo lawnmower could do it just as well, they're going to get one. I can guarantee it.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a big part of
It's
it.
the keeping up appearances of technology,
I think so.
isn't it?
Yeah, and then once it becomes embedded, it's and if it can handle a lot of these tasks. So again, courier services 700 to 900 billion. But I'm actually I'm good in the little calculation I'll do at the end. So something to look forward to. That's
How
tiny.
long does it take you to do
counted
maths?
it. Oh, ages. I'm going to be here. It's going to be silence while I add these things up.
Yeah, everybody wait.
Here's another one that's mentioned quite a bit: tutoring. Right, so it being able to tutor children. Creepy, but that's
yeah,
a 100
but
billion
also,
to 180
like,
billion
why do you
market.
need a humanoid robot to do that? Why can't you just have an iPad, which they do already? Do you know what I mean?
So we both know, because we did a little piece of research, and it's probably in a long lost blog now that we'll have to dig out, that children were engaging with Alexa more so than tutors and their parents.
Yeah, well,
because
they were,
felt
and
that
they were
confide in it.
modifying their language because of the way that they spoke to AI rather than humans.
Yeah, but also chose to, right? So they chose to use Alexa, and the main reason was they felt like they weren't being judged, or whatever it is. So that I don't think that's necessarily a defense of going from an Alexa to a humanoid robot to tutor someone, but that's probably the core value proposition. Now, if you take 10% and those are the lowest estimates from all of that, then you end up with 130 billion of tasks handled by these bots for 10%. And a couple of assumptions here that mean that's probably bigger is I've taken the lowest market size, but also we're calculating for people who consume the most. The people most likely to have this instead of something useful like a car or an ISA.
Right.
Are also the people that spend the most in each of these categories. So it could be a big if your outlay was already, and again we're talking 2050, so huge, a lot of innovation at the time. If your outlay was already, hey, I've got a cleaner, I've got a tutor for the kids, blah blah blah, I've got a babysitter, etc. This means I can go to work for longer hours. I don't have to look after my elderly relatives. Whatever it is that is the value proposition, it could be quite significant to make the cost part. Because my original hang-up was, why would anyone spend? You could get a really good washing machine and still have like $50,000 at the other end.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of those numbers, people keep citing, hey, it's going to cost about 25,000 to 30,000. That seems really unlikely and that seems unlikely for a lot. I think Elon Musk has the most aggressive pricing, but he's talking about the cost of production. So he's saying it'll take me, Elon Musk and Tesla to build it. It'll cost us between $25,000 and $30,000.
So $30,000, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But how much they sell it for is a different thing. That's just how much it costs to build the thing. Obviously, they're going to want. I presume they're going to do it altruistically and will want some money off the top to make future investment worthwhile.
But like going back to that, I'm just going to go back to that manufacturing example you gave. Like I'm thinking about this, and the idea is that where you have humans, you now have human robots. So you don't need to have specific robots to do specific tasks, which would mean you need to upgrade your factory, right? So it's a cheaper upgrade to your factory to use humanoid robots so it can be online 24/7. But at some point, that factory is going to need an upgrade anyway. So you're then spending twice on buying humanoid robots and then probably implementing specific robotics to do certain things. So I don't understand why you wouldn't just go for the specific robots to do the specific manufacturing tasks that need to be done. I understand it in short-termism, going just replace humans with robots that do human things, but more strategically, it makes much more sense to build smart factories and have production lines that do the things that they need to do really well, rather than these robots that can be a bit clunky and make mistakes like humans make mistakes because of their anatomy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't see its value.
One thing manufacturers don't like doing is closing down a factory or pausing production in a facility and saying, "Hey, consumer, prices are going to increase because we're pulling down our big factory here, and we're going to modernize it and make it a smart factory." And they also don't particularly like building new factories unless they absolutely have to. Tariffgate being a good example of that, right? So it's there aren't that many big factories being built. There are a lot of promises of big factories being built, but they don't like doing it. There will be discrete parts where you can modernize a system. And there's a great story. It's one of my favourite ones that I think in a blog I tied to Scipio Africanus's defeat of Hannibal.
Here we go. Here we go again.
if I can work it in, I will.
Yeah.
Where they'll be discrete. I don't think there'll be these fancy soft, reassuringly soft robots. It'll be an arm or something like that, Or,
but that's not a humanoid robot. That is, if it's just an arm.
No, sure.
That's like the specific thing.
It's a bit of a humanoid
Yeah.
robot.
I get it. Like it's specificity, right? And specificity can mean you have a robot that does something really well, and it does it because it does it better than anything else does it, and that's got value. Whereas these do everything, but a bit crap. And they make mistakes and they're slow and they look stupid and they fall over.
I think the fact that if they get it to the point where they can work 24/7, that'll be a big one. That'll be an absolutely big one. But I agree with you. We have these conversations. I mean, around AI as well. AI is very expensive. These bots are very expensive. Because, of course, we're just talking about the capital outlay of $30,000. You're going to have to charge them. They're going to have to be upgraded.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be maintained. It's not going to be cheap to run either. Human labour, however, is, and I'm not saying I'm for this, but it is comparatively cheap. So it almost certainly is more economical to have humans in a lot of these roles. Whether or not humans should be in those roles is a different question. Kind of moving a piece of paper from one side of a machine to another or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think I'm still long on the domestic market. However,
I'm short on it both in a manufacturing sense and a consumer sense. Other than maybe it finding a niche.
Oh no. The one sector of the economy I didn't look towards. I'm woefully unprepared.
But right. No, we're not going to get into all sorts of degraded descriptions of what you could do with a robot. But companionship is a big deal, and I think that if there is a market for this, it is probably in companionship, and then it won't be long until somebody builds one that you can do things with that maybe you're missing. You're
play
missing
tennis.
out on. Exactly. But there's a market for it, right? And there must be somebody working along these lines. There are already these
of course,
hyper realistic dolls that you can get. That somebody's told me. But
can you, Duncan? Yeah, that's all right.
But you know what? It drives a lot. That sector that we're alluding to, and not talking about because we're doing YouTube videos now and trying to sound good for everybody, but it drives a lot of the market, and it drives a lot of innovation. So it's bound to happen, and it's bound to. It might be where it kind of launches from, and they don't have to do as much.
I imagine, and I use the word
but
imagine
they need to be fairly
advisedly.
dexterous. Sorry.
Yeah. I imagine it's going to be an artisan affair. So I suspect there are some diligent people in a basement somewhere doing exactly what you're describing, Duncan.
Yeah.
Whether or not, well, do you know what? I'm happy to be correct actually, because Sam Altman's just said we're now
going to let
allowing
erotica
smut roam free through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Poor ChatGPT.
I know.
My God.
Gosh.
My God.
I like the way you described it as erotica. The stuff that's going to be going on there. Not in any way that kind of literary erotic fiction.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Because they did a survey, didn't they? And you can read more about that survey on our website, where writing fiction novels is a small percentage, but confiding is a high percentage. And I wonder if they do that survey again and that research again in a year's time, how much of it is going to be made up by awful, chat.
Yeah. Awful.
Ungodly chat.
But yeah, I think, and we talk about humanoid robots being embodied AI, right? So that some of the advances that we see in robotics and the renewed sense of do you remember the old Honda Asimo that existed? Feels like it wasn't that long ago to me, but it must be quite a long time ago. Can you look that up, Ollie?
Of course. Yes,
but a lot of the more recent focus on humanoid robots is because generative AI can give it a brain, and we see these kind of two things coming together to create embodied AI, so AI with the humanoid robot body. But I wonder whether the people will want to do things with AI and create AI girlfriends and characters and partners and lovers, and if they're able to embody that, then gosh, who knows where it will go.
Yeah. I'm now looking at these old robots, and it does remind me of how futile this all is.
Yeah.
So I can remember being at an event. I hosted this event, and someone brought along a Pepper the robot. Can you remember Pepper the robot? It's basically it's like a toy. You know those toys you used to get at Christmas? You'd wind them up and then with their little feet one in front of the other. It was kind of that, but with an iPad strapped to its front. And that was malfunctioning like crazy at this event. Let me tell you, the poor team that were trying to get it to do all sorts of different things, it just wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi or anything like that. Absolutely futile. If we were to take our minds ever so briefly off of your favourite sector, Duncan,
Right, it's not my favourite sector. It's just the one that I think is going to drive a lot of the
Why don't you talk about it so much?
It's
then?
gonna drive a lot of the uptake and usage. That's all. Anyway,
I think in a very small demographic. I think in a very small
speak for
demographic.
yourself.
I don't think it's
And I'm not talking just about the physical act, right? I'm not just talking about the physical act of intimacy that you may be able to get up to with a robot. I'm talking about general companionship. People
No,
who
fine. Well,
want, and that might be parents who want to, just palm their kids off to a robot, or it might be somebody who sits in a basement and wants a lover. It might be, it could be any number of things, but companionship is going to be a big deal, I think.
So on a companionship where if we may remove the darker side of companionship just briefly for the things I'm about to mention, just for our listeners' sake and indeed our own sanity, I can conceive of a world where health services, for example, or indeed other government institutions provide, again, 2050, not these bots right now that are soft but incapable of holding the kettle. Like they're actually capable of doing all sorts of things in the elder care and childcare market. Mm-hmm. So if you think about the cost base for looking after both of those groups, both an opportunity cost, i.e. their parents can't go to work because they have to look after them, or their carers can't go to work because they have to look after them, but also in just how much it costs the state. A bot that is very good at handling companionship, which is all it is in a lot of cases, just checking on, making sure someone's okay, making sure it's everything's above board and they're fed and happy. Those market opportunities are absolutely enormous, and I can imagine a company investing very heavily in servicing that sector. And to give you, of course, I have numbers. Thank you for asking, Duncan. Nearly 2 trillion globally in elder care and 400 billion in childcare.
Yeah, you can imagine putting one of those in your aging parents' house to help them get out of bed, get dressed, all that kind of thing. Just to be about. Yeah, just to be about, and like with the cameras, check in. Like your remote children can just check in and have a chat through it. So I think that's a lot more compelling than straightening pictures. I've still got this video running. It's straightening pictures and putting keys and wandering past the person with very strange gait. Right, so are you still long on humanoid robots? So. Humanoid robots specifically, so. Even after I've convincingly told you how stupid of an idea they are.
Yeah, despite your compelling argument, I think your argument is grounded in today, which is fair enough. I don't accuse you of any crime there. I'm thinking of what it would look like in 2050 off the back of some of this research, and I think the numbers are quite compelling. And the reason the numbers matter is that's where investment is going to flow. So, like I say, so if you can create a robot that looks after a chunk of the 2 trillion elder care market, it's going to be worth the investment in getting it to the best possible condition it can be, and at a price point that's effective for healthcare organisations. The household market, I'm less sure about. What makes me bullish about that, ironically, isn't necessarily that the economics of automating all those tasks is a good thing. I just think everyone will want one. I think if you're rich, in the same way that everyone where I live, apart from me, seemingly has a Range Rover Sport. They don't need one. I live in the middle of a town, but everyone has a Range Rover Sport. It's because they all have one. Yeah. And I think the second someone has a household where it's it's great, it does the washing for me and stuff. I think people will get one, and the more people will have one, the more everyone else will want one.
Yeah, I think I get that, but I'm still long. And yes, a lot of it is based on what...
No, you're short, Duncan.
Oh, no, I'm short.
Yeah, you're short.
I got confused between what long and short meant. I'm still short because I think that, I am basing that in today. And I think that they'll be incapable today if they were let loose in those markets. But I think that as soon as somebody releases one into that market, so that first person gets a humanoid robot, I think it will just fall apart. The facade will just fall apart, and people will realise that they can't do half of what they expect, what is expected of that type of robot, right? That people have seen from films and done in the past, and it will just, the whole kind of facade will fall apart, and it will go back to a science fiction fantasy again. I still think it will get investment, and then I think it'll try and focus on the the manufacturing side or the care side. And again, as soon as it can't do something that it would be expected to do, or it makes a mistake, or it falls over, the whole thing will fall apart. So I just don't see it in terms of the general purpose humanoid robot.
You've raised two interesting points that I'm going to pick up on just very briefly.
Right. Are you going to pick on or pick up on?
Pick on. I think they're really interesting. So I think the idea that because this is such a trope of sci-fi, people are going to be harder to impress once it's out of the box. It's quite an interesting point. I kind of felt the same way when ChatGPT came out, and people still like it. You know, I think me and you know I think if it looks like it's doing the right thing and has the promise of getting better and better and better, which is what ChatGPT is. So like, hey, with the next software upgrade, we think the bot will be able to do, you know, karate.
Yeah.
And your home will never be safer. I think people will still invest in it. The second one that I would just nudge at very briefly is the manufacturing context. I know this isn't the point you're making, but that's already incredibly mature. There's a really interesting slew of reports that came out a couple of weeks ago from loads of business executives that have been to a lot of China's new smart factories and big smart ports, where absolutely everything is automated, of which humanoid robots play a part.
Yeah.
And the description, I remember it because I jotted it down somewhere. Was it Western executives pale with fear?
I think I saw that one too. Was that from our tech tracker as well?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was in the tech tracker. But that was one of many. It kind of caught this, you know, as the tech tracker identifies, there was kind of a flurry of commentary about it, where this big kind of group of Western CEOs went over to tour this new smart factory. Yeah, absolutely terrifying. So I think it's all very well embedded in manufacturing already.
I do.
That's your point, I guess.
Yeah, I guess my point is that the majority of that will not. I guess humanoid robots will play a part in that, but the majority of it is not humanoid robots. And if we think we're just going to take factories as is and just plonk humanoid robots in where humans are currently, that's not going to work. And I think you're going to have to do a factory upgrade anyway. So why not just upgrade it? Maybe there is an element of humanoid robot that is the right thing to do, but maybe it's a forklift truck robot. Maybe it's a transformer that goes from a humanoid into a forklift truck. I don't know.
Oh, God, fingers crossed. Yeah. Oh, that would be great, wouldn't it? What a television show apparently people would like to watch.
All right, we haven't managed to convince each other, but I think this is something we can come back to. And maybe we'll expand the chat from just humanoid robots onto other things. Or maybe somebody else will release a funny video that we can have another chat about. But we'll keep tabs on it through the tech tracker, which you can see on shortfuseresearch.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel at shortfusepod, I think it is.
Yeah,
is it?
Sounds right. Yeah, I think so. Nailed it.
All right, thanks everybody. Be back soon. Say bye, Ollie.
Cheerio.